Hello everyone, my name is LBK and this is King Pie Podcast. On today's episode, we've got this week's IPL coverage. Today on the episode, we have with us Ghostly. How are you, Ghostly?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so let's get going. So, Ghostly, you want to talk about the IPL? Let's begin with Joss Butler. And till now, Joss Butler has been pretty decent till now. He has scored 375 runs as of now in the sixth innings, averaging 75. He's got 200s and he's striking at 156 right now. So, how have you seen his performance till now?
Yeah, I think in this case the numbers very clearly speak for themselves. Uh, he's completed 6 games. He's in the midst of his seventh at the time of the recording, and he has 375 runs across 6 games. He's over 100 runs clear of Rahul in second place for the Orange Cap. He's striking at a rate of 156, and just as I was reading off those stats, I'm watching him play live, and he just hit another six. So he's just been in an insane route of form as of late, and it's at this rate it's hard to see anyone catching up to him because he's just so far ahead. But yeah, he's just been playing out of his mind, and he's been helping his team out a lot.
Yeah, I mean, with Joss Butler, we have seen in last few years that sometimes out of obviously the international white ball circuit, you see things happening for him, and then suddenly things change. I mean, you see his test career. There's uh, there's good parts, there's bad parts, and similar things have happened for his IPL career as well. I mean, he has been doing well. He did well for MI when he was an MI, and decently, but there was a lot of start-stop to his RR career, especially. But since that last year, that 100 against SRH that he scored, completely different side of Joss Butler. Especially his hitting has gotten a lot better, and looks like he braces himself to play the longer innings.
Yeah, I think Joss Butler really is England's all-format option. As a batsman, we've seen what he could do in white ball. I remember that century he had in the T20 World Cup, where he needed a six off the final ball to get a century, and he got it. And even in red ball, people say a lot of things about him. He's a bit of a controversial figure with his constant inclusion in the test team. But we saw he had that, I think it's a 200 odd ball rear guard in the Ashes last year, which unfortunately ended in a hit wicket. But knocks like that show that he's capable of performing in both a white ball and a red ball. And we see right now in the IPL, he's flexing his white ball dominance. And what's interesting is that on the batting end, you have Joss Butler, who's the leading run scorer in the IPL so far, and on the bowling end, you have who's defended Chahal, who's the leading wicket taker. So those two are really helping their teams stay on the upper half of the points table.
And sometimes I feel how bad would KKR and RCB feeling for letting Kuldeep Yadav and Yuzvendra Chahal go. And they are both the highest wicket takers right now. Chahal is at 17 wickets in 6 games, while Kuldeep Yadav is on 13 wickets out of 6 games. And we saw how KKR pretty much kept Kuldeep benched for a long while, and seemed like RCB had no interest in retaining Chahal this time. So kind of feel bad for their old franchisees right now.
Yeah, it's always tough as a fan of a team to see their ex-players go somewhere else and start performing at a high level. So, but for Rajasthan right now, it's all clicking. They're on top in all of the major awards. They have the highest scoring batsman. They have the most successful bowler. And I think most importantly, they're currently ranked number one in the IPL Fair Play Award. So I think that's also something to know.
One thing that is weird about this RRB team is, last few years they had a lot of great players. They had Sanju Samson. They even had Rahul Tewatia at one moment. There was obviously Rian Parak, who's still there. They had Ben Stokes and many others. But the weird thing is, this time, if you right now look at the top 10 batter and bowlers list, there's just Josh Butler in the batters list, who is obviously at the top, while in the bowlers list, there's just Yuzveen Chahal. There's no one else other than them who belongs to RR, and yet the team is doing really well. So sometimes it looks like, I mean, there's a guy, even guys from MI in those, and MI is languishing at the bottom. So sometimes maybe it is just one player that you need to change the game. Like RCB got Faf, and RR has Joss. Looks like the one guy is doing the job for them.
Yeah, I think that RR just built a really good team this season. Everyone has their roles, and they have very good talent at each role. They have Joss Buttler on top. They have Imran Hetmeyer toward the middle. They have Karun Iyer, who's been good, and then on the bowling, obviously they're fairly strong. They have Ashwin, they have Trent Ball, they have Chahal. So yeah, it's just overall a really strong team. It's a really well built team. You can't look at this roster and say that they're weak in any one area. It's a very well built team.
Obviously, the same goes for Royal Challengers Bangalore. Even their journey in the recent years has been the same, although they did qualify for the playoffs in the last two seasons. But there's obviously a lot of similarities between them and RR, who obviously both have a lot of great players, but sometimes fail to do well. But obviously, this time RCB is also doing well. They have won 5 out of their 7 games, and their net run rate is 0.25, which is really good. So, what do you think has changed for RCB? Obviously, they got a new captain this year, even though some of their top order batters are not in form, and even Mohammad Siraj is not doing well. But seems like they are in pretty good shape right now, despite all those out of form players.
Yeah, I think that right now with RCB, they have a lot of talent on the roster, and I think they're winning games because with a roster this strong, all it takes is for one or two or three players to click for them to have a fighting chance. You have the form of Virat Kohli that's obviously uh, been in the news lately as a lot of people are saying that it could be the end for him as far as dreams of going back to what he once was. But I think with the player of his class, he'll bounce back to some extent. But his team is winning, and I think that's all. That's all he cares about. His presence on the field is good for his team. It's good for the crowd. I think regardless of his form, he should. I've seen people saying that he should be dropped on form, which I disagree with, because just the stature of Virat Kohli is something that a team needs. He provides more than just stats to RCB. So yeah, I think everyone at RCB would be happy with how they're performing thus far, regardless of the form of a few individual players.
You know what would be funny if somehow RCB ends up winning this season, which is literally the they have been playing without Virat being the captain for last 11 years.
Yeah, there would be a slight irony to that, and it would come in the year that in the PSL equivalent of RCB is the whole Highlanders. They've always been a good team. They've even had AB Lears at some point, but they've never been able to win. But they did win this year after changing captains. They made Shaheen Shah be the captain, and they won. So it would be kind of funny and ironic if RCB under a new captain was able to win their first IPL.
What would be extra ironic is that winning as soon as AB de Villiers left.
Yeah, yep.
That would be bad. Uh, Another team that has been doing well, and they've won 5 out of their 6 games till now, and looks like they have emerged as a great unit. They have the bowlers, their batters. Hardik is obviously one of the highest run scorers in this tournament with 228 runs of 5 games, which is pretty good to say the least. Similarly, even their bowling has been really good. They have Shami, they have Rashid, they have Ferguson, and seems like Miller has come back at a really good time for them to finish the games. Even Rashid Khan did well in that CSK game. Gujarat seems to be emerging really well right now.
Yeah, we always knew going into it that their bowling would be the standout, and that's what it has been. But the form of Hardik Pandya has been very impressive thus far. It's like he's playing his heart out every game. They still have issues with the rest of the top order not really carrying their weight, but as long as the middle order and the lower order could continue to cover up for them and the bowling could do their job, I think they'll just keep on this pace. They've been extremely, especially for a brand new team. That face a lot of criticisms coming in regarding team selection. There is also an irony to the two teams being towards the top of the table, whereas the two most historic teams, the two most recognizable teams, CSK and MI, stuck up 9 and 10 positions.
We're talking about GT, so obviously Hardik would come up as the first thing. And, despite whatever his captaincy has done or has not done till now, I mean, obviously he's been really good with his captaincy, his all changes, bowling changes, and even the batting. But one thing that, comes to my mind, especially looking at his batting, is how responsible he has been this year. I mean, we have seen in recent times how he would easily get out when he's not doing well, or that hard length thing became pretty dominant. A lot of bowlers were using the hard length against him to and he often even used to get out, as he did against New Zealand in that ICC World Cup game, even against Pakistan, and in that England in the T20 series against England. But seems like he has become much more controlled and much more matured with his batting now. Even you can see in his batting as well, bowling as well. That seems like he's a much more matured character right now.
Yeah, he's as far back as I've seen him bat. Uh, we always knew he was capable of hitting a long ball, and that's what he does. That's what he's known for. But I think you're right in that he has matured a lot. I think a lot of it comes with being put in charge of a team, being kind of like the head of a team. And I feel that a player of his quality, more mature with the bat, especially, could only boost his value even more.
Talking about the new teams, there's also Lucknow Super Giants, who are also in the top four. They have 4 wins out of their 7 games, and even their captain had a lot of questions to answer in the recent times. There was questions whether he would be able to lead the side, as there were a lot of doubts over his captaincy of Punjab Kings. But I think KL Rahul has done really well till now to captain the LSG side. Even he's the second highest run scorer till now. He's got that 100 against Mumbai, and he's right now on 265 runs of 7 games. And they also have Avesh Khan, who is the fifth highest wicket taker. till now. So it looks like even LSG is going on the same route that GT is, maybe just a little lower than that.
Yeah, coming first to Chahal, uh, we all know how fast Chahal. A lot of people strike rate, but honestly, for this going for the second highest run scorer in the IPL at a strike rate of 141, I think that's more than good enough. Any team will take that. So I think obviously his individual form has been phenomenal. And as a captain, there were a lot of questions coming in about his ability to captain and if it would affect his batting and whatnot. And I think currently the state of LSG speaks for itself to that. He's capable. He's led the teams thus far to a top 4 spot at the same time as having phenomenal individual form. So yeah, as it stands, both GT and LSG are off to good starts to their inaugural season, and their respective captains have both adapted to the responsibility very well.
Uh, you know how we keep making that old man joke about CSK? I mean, if you look at the LSG team, one thing you would realize is how they have gotten a lot of players who are kind of in the midst of their career. I mean, they are very matured, but they are not, someone at the fag end of their careers. You see there's KL Rahul, who is 30. There's Jason Holder, who is also 30. There's Manish Pandey, who is I think 31, 32. Marcus Stoinis. There's Quinton de Kock, who is also the same age as KL Rahul. And there's Andrew Ty. Actually, Andrew Ty is kind of older than all of them. But looks like they have collected this great bunch of matured but not too old, the players who are not too old, and that is working really well for them to have such a great experienced one bunch.
Yeah, they've assembled a bunch of players who were in their athletic primes of their career. They haven't started the downfall yet, but as you said, they're very experienced. They're very mature. Uh, they it takes to lead a side. So I think that is not only good for LSG as a team because it helps them win. It's also good for the young players that they have. They spend time around these experienced players who know what it's like to play at the highest level and receive mentorship from them, but also be able to watch them perform their craft at their highest level.
And one more thing that stands out is how their mentor is Gautam Gambhir.
Yeah.
People have always thought of Gautam Gambhir as kind of an angry or kind of a rude guy to say the least. But from what I remember about Gautam Gambhir is he's completely different when he's on the ground. I mean, people have this image of him as an angry guy, but if you'd see what things he has achieved, you'd think, I mean, you need to be a really patient and a really calm guy to achieve what he has done. I mean, he played one of the longest innings by time wise for India in 2009 in Napier Test. He he was the highest scorer for India in two World Cup finals, not one. That is a big thing. And he was the first guy to beat CSK, in the finals. Actually, first Indian guy to be precise. Actually, Shane Warne and Shane Warne and Kevin Peterson had done that, if I remember correctly. But he was the first Indian guy to beat CSK in the finals. He led KKR to not one but two IPL titles. So I think he is pretty much one of the best possible guy for the mentorship job. From what
Yeah, I agree with that. Whatever people say about his personality aside, strictly as a player, there's no denying that Gautam Gambhir is one of the um, just in all formats, he's had a very good career, and he has that experience, that nuance, in respect to the game to share with the younger players on the team, and even the older players have a lot to learn from someone like Gambhir. So yeah, I think it's good for especially brand new franchises to have somebody like him in their dugout, just there to help out.
talking about another team that has kind of risen recently. I mean, we have kind of slandered them in our previous episodes, but SRH has done really well in last few games. They have won four on the trot, although there's a certain pattern to their gameplay. You can really see their bowling and batting has emerged really well in the recent games. They have Bhuvneshwar, they have Umran Malik, there's Natarajan, who are all doing well. Even in batting, Aiden Markram and Rahul Tripathi are doing really well. Looks like they are really catching a great rhythm recently.
SRH, uh, a lot of their players have started to click as of late. They've still had issues with their top order, but beyond that, whatever they've been doing now has been winning them games. They're still at five, which is bang in the middle of the points table, but I think they have what it takes to break into the top four. But we'll just have to see what they do from here. If they could keep this momentum, or if they'll revert back to how they were to start the season.
You know what makes me wonder? How Kane Williamson has won all the four tosses. I mean, how lucky can you get, man, in this condition? Because he has won. I mean, the last four games have been exactly the same. He has won the toss. They have bowled first, and then they have chased down the total in 18th or 19th over. So sometimes you feel like maybe if they'd be batting first, the result would be something different.
Yeah, I think that luck is always a factor, and it's definitely been with Kane Williamson in the last four games, four straight tosses. Um, I definitely think they would have had more issues had they lost that toss, but it is what it is. The toss has been on their side as part of the game as well, and they've been making full use of it.
Yeah, and the weird thing is, they do not have a single batter in the top 10 run scorer list. I think the best they have had is Rahul Tripathi and Aiden Markram. And even in the bowlers list, there's Justine Natarajan on number 4, and who has 12 wickets, and Umran Malik, who, as we know, has been quite expensive in a few games. But still, their overall teamwork has been really good, to say the least. Even you don't see Bhuvneshwar Kumar on the list, but he has done well. There's no Abhishek Sharma on the list, but he has done well. So looks like they are doing their bits and pieces here and there to get the job done.
Yeah, while it's not a team with any standout individual performances, they've clawed their way to the fifth spot through good team effort, with most everyone pitching in however little they can. As you said, it's really a bits and pieces coming together to make a decent team.
Moving on to the teams that have not been that decent. Uh, do you even wonder what happened to MI this time? I mean, if you see from a completely third person perspective, you see that they have a lot of players. You see a lot of players that have done well for them. There's Tilak Verma, who has gotten 234 runs. Surya Kumar Yadav is obviously doing really well almost every game. There's Deval Brevis, who has done well in the few games that he's gotten chance. Even Jaydev Unatkar has done really well. Last game, Daniel Sams has done well. But seems like they never seem to do well together. I think there's no unison in this team. It is always either one guy doing well, like we saw Surya Kumar Yadav doing well in a lot of games, and other guys going up. And in the last game, it was opposite. Actually, Daniel Sams was the one who did well, and the other guy screwed up. So seems like things are not happening for them at all as far as playing as a unit goes.
Yeah, so I think the issue with MI has been that just nothing for them has worked this season, and I know that's a pretty bland way to put it, but that's the best way to put it. uh, for me, just nothing has clicked. They've lost 7 games. They're kind of emulating what the Roger Kings did in the PSL this year, where they went, I believe, the first 8 games without a win. And I saw someone even point out that both teams, both MI and Karachi, were captained by their national team's captain. But yeah, that aside, um, right now it's just been pretty horrible to be an MI fan. I know every team goes through ups and downs, but this is a pretty drastic fall for a team historically of their caliber.
One thing that we do not see usually with MI, I remember their old auctions that actually bought Bumrah, both Krunal and Hardik Pandya for pretty low prices early on in 2013 and 2014. But this season, as you see, they have Ishan Kishan, who they bought for 15 plus crores. They retained Rohit Sharma. They bought Jofra Archer and Tim Davids, and none of them has done that well for them till now. So that's like almost 50 crores going to almost almost a waste right now. And from what I remember, that was not what MI used to do. They were never really known for their big buys. I think the only big buy I remember for them from a long time is Pollard. Pollard was probably the one that they had put a lot of emphasis to buy on. But seems like they have done a lot of mistakes that they often do not do.
Yeah, I think what they like, especially in regards to buying more players, like going after talent. Um, I think in the case of Tim David, he is a player who was in form right before the IPL, so I think they should give him more chances. I think he will perform for them if given the opportunity to play his natural game. But yeah, I feel that they've kind of gone away from what we've traditionally seen from them, and that shows in their number 10 ranking at the moment without any wins. So yeah, I think you basically hit the nail on the head in that they've gone away from what traditionally makes them great.
Another thing about them is that how lacking they have been in the bowling department. I mean, before 2021, they used to have Bolt and Bumrah as their opening bowlers, and even in the middle part, there was no reprieve. They had Rahul Chahar, who was their attacking leg spinner. Even Pollard used to bowl a bit, and looked like yeah, they had Nathan Coulter-Nile as well in recent years. So looked like they had one guy for every job as far as bowling department went. And this year it looks like they are still searching for their answers. Feels like they pretty much bought Jofra Archer and thought that is answer to all their bowling woes, and they're like waiting for 2023 to happen right now.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they thought would happen when they spent all that on an injured player. Um, but obviously that's coming back to bite them this season. I'm sure they'll be better next season, but as it stands right now, they're on track to have one of the worst seasons in IPL history.
True. And another disappointing team has been CSK, but I mean, yesterday was not really disappointing for them, to say the least. We saw some vintage Dhoni hitting at the death, and last over was pretty much his patent MS finish against Jaydev Unadkat, against whom he has now scored 103 runs of the 44 balls that he has faced in. So looks like CSK, while they have not really been good, I think they have gotten some, they have gathered some steam in recent games, especially against that RCB and MI.
Yeah, that MS Dhoni knock was just absolutely vintage stuff from him. That's what the fans have loved to see from him. He's one of the best white ball finishers of all time, and I feel that him coming out and doing that is great for the game, and also great for him. I remember in 2019, people were talking about how MS is kind of washed, how he's incapable of doing that at a high level anymore. And I think I still do think that that internationally he's not at the level uh, where these kind of knocks could be expected consistently. But at least in the IPL, he's proven that he's still very capable. And as for that record, you told me you said 100 off 44 balls. Um,
Yeah,
if if there was a batsman equivalent of a batsman being a bowler's money, then this is probably it.
and one thing about CS that you see CSK's bad season, CSK is having the bad season, and so is MI, and there's so many parallels right now. I mean, have openers that are not really doing well. There's some chopping and changing going on, even though Robin Uthappa has done well to say the least. But they have a lot of similarities. I mean, they have a young opener who's not doing well. MI has Ishan Kishan, and CSK has Rituraj Ghai. Both have captains who are not in form, Ravin Jadeja and Rohit Sharma. Both have two players in the middle order who are basically carrying the batting. Like CSK has Shivam Dubey, and to an extent, there's been Ambati Raidu or Robin Uthappa, although Robin Uthappa is not really in middle order. Similarly, MI has Tilak Verma and Surya Kumar Yadav, who are mostly carrying the team. And looks like both the teams are lacking on the bowling side. Like they do not have a good option for death, except that one option that they usually carry. Like CSK has Bravo, and but other than that, they both look lost in the death. So seems like both their struggles are pretty similar. Although Chennai did not do as many mistakes as MI did. I mean, buying Chahar for 14 was not really a smart thing to do. I mean, that is a lot of money to put, especially if he's not an all-rounder or he's not going to lead you. But seems like even Chennai has fallen in a similar kind of trap that MI did.
Yeah, and there's also the thing that CSK and MI are both two of the greatest IPL teams in history, and they both fallen to such a level in the same season. So there's a bit of coincidental irony there. But I feel that with CSK, they play a lot of the old names, and that helps sometimes. Like in the case of Dhoni, there were rumors before the IPL that he'd be a mentor more than a batsman, but I think his batting has been very good. And just in general, I feel that they'll come back better next year, depending on if they try to go for anyone. But yeah, I think it's just a down year for them and MI as well. But I'm confident that they'll come back in the not so distant future.
But one thing that differentiates CSK from MI is you can clearly see the things and the plan that was there, that was put in there. I mean, you see Chahar and Milne, who both got injured at a very wrong time. But if I mean, you cut out Chris Jordan, put Adam Milne there, and if uh, Obviously, probably Mukesh Chaudhary would not have been playing if Deepak Chahar would not have been injured. And you suddenly see a pretty great bowling attack that has almost all the bases covered. There's Mahesh Tikshna, who's doing really well as a spinner, although obviously Ravin Jadeja has not done that well, both as captain or even as batter or bowler. So it looks like CSK had a better plan than MI did, but somehow the injuries put off their plans.
Yeah, I think part of CSK is that they got a bit unfortunate with their injuries. You mentioned Mukesh Chaudhary, uh, and I think he's been pretty good. You saw against MI, he ran through their top order by himself. He got Rohit Sharma and Ishan Kishan both on ducks, and then he got Chahal Previs out on four. So I think there's a lot of talent there that this team has, and when everyone's healthy and that talent blossoms, I think they'll be back to their winning ways. I also wanted to ask, what's your take on the quality of umpiring we've seen thus far in the IPL? I've seen a lot of people complaining about the amount of incorrect decisions we've seen.
One thing that I think has been happening with umpiring, uh, since the introduction of DRS, seems like umpires have kind of gone with the mindset that obviously if they make a wrong decision, it could be overturned, and that kind of sets in a bit of situation where umpires can be can be not being that can be not being that serious
Apathetic.
as they
Yeah.
are right now, and that might lead to issues that there have been. Obviously, people keep bringing out that there need to be neutral umpires, obviously, because for obvious reasons. But in general, ever since DRS has come along, umpires to give their judgment rather quicker, since they now believe that it can even if they are wrong.
Yeah, I think that especially in a sport like cricket where DRS is a kind of is a kind of solution for umpiring, whereas it's although I don't agree with the notion at all, it is possible to do away with umpires making out into decisions and run it purely off of DRS. So I think that is as you mentioned, in the newer generation of umpires, it leads to some apathy amongst them because they know that even if they get it wrong, if the player reviews, it could just be overturned. So I think that that's also a factor. And as we're talking, Josh Buttler just scored another century, 101 off 57 not out. He is in some remarkable form.
Looks like Virat Kohli's 973 run record is in danger of being broken this year.
Honestly, the way Josh Butler is going, it's very possible he's been playing out of his mind.
So true. So that brings us to the end of today's coverage, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.